The gift that just keeps on giving. Political experts who were oh so wrong about how close the 2024 election was going to be.
Joining me now in studio is pollster and communication analyst Frank Luntz. He's been tracking voters in focus groups with the New York Times throughout 2024 and is here with some insights on what unfolded in this historic election. So, Frank, before we get to your focus groups, you admitted quite candidly that you were wrong about something major after the election. You thought this election, if I have you right, was over after the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. What happened?
It simply wasn't. And in the end, the debate did not matter. The public is used to what Trump says. They did not hold it against him. The dogs and cats, which people made fun of, memes were created. It did not impact people because, and one of the things we have to acknowledge is the importance of the truth. We have to tell it.
Well, that was not the truth when he said that.
No, and I thought that would kill him, but it didn't. And one of the things that really matters in elections going forward is we have the responsibility to tell them the truth, and they have the right to get the truth. And quite frankly, we are a different country today than we were even 8 years ago. What we judge people by, sometimes it's ignoring the information becomes more important than what you say. And that was the challenge with Harris. She didn't say enough.
This is so many levels of just absolute incompetence. I don't know where to begin, but let's get started.
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth.
Hi, I'm Pastor Marty. Welcome to the Afternoon Drive. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We have, from time to time, YouTube likes to come along and purge us, apparently, of, subscriptions that might be a burden to us. But now that Kamala has been defeated, we are unburdened. So please make sure that you are still subscribed to the channel. Once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That will give you notification of my rants, my ravings, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Please like and share this video. It's the only way that we get the word out that we're here. Thank you so much for being a part of the Afternoon Drive. Frank Luntz, the grifter who masks a raid as a insightful pollster. He was the one that used to be forever on Faux Pas News, formerly known as Fox News. And, he would have his focus groups there and they would do the dial thing. And, it was kind of cool to watch back in the day, but I always noticed how his polls were they were skewed. And he did it on purpose. And I always noticed he was kind of wrong a lot of the time. And I'm sorry, he was just kind of a disheveled, unprofessional looking individual. And here he is now. He makes the rounds now. He's on all the other alphabet networks but Fox News. They don't have him back anymore. But, good for him. He's lost some weight, looking better that way. His toupee is not the same color as his beard, so he might want to make a change there. Either get a toupee that's in line with the beard color or dye the beard color to match the toupee so that it looks like it goes together, but ain't nothing going to help them yellow stained teeth. You need to see a dentist, a hygienist about getting something done with that. All that said, he looks like Olaf in a necktie. I can't help it. I just see that when I look at him. He says that the truth matters, but apparently it doesn't matter with Donald Trump. That was the essence of what he was saying in that video clip.
Joining me now in studio is pollster and communication analyst Frank Luntz. He's been tracking voters in focus groups with the New York Times throughout 2024 and is here with some insights on what unfolded in this historic election. So, Frank, before we get to your focus groups, you admitted quite candidly that you were wrong about something major after the election. You thought this election, if I have you right, was over after the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. What happened?
It simply wasn't. And in the end, the debate did not matter. The public is used to what Trump says. They did not hold it against him. The dogs and cats, which people made fun of, memes were created. it did not impact people because, and one of the things we have to acknowledge is the importance of the truth. We have to tell it.
Well, that was not the truth when he said that.
No, and I thought that would kill him, but it didn't. And one of the things that really matters in elections going forward is we have the responsibility to tell them the truth, and they have the right to get the truth. And quite frankly, we are a different country today than we were even 8 years ago. What we judge people by, sometimes it's ignoring the information becomes more important than what you say. And that was the challenge with Harris. She didn't say enough.
Wow. That is just so many levels of disingenuous disinformation spin. And that's the issue right there, which makes him a bad pollster. He already has an outcome in his mind of where he wants a poll to be. So he purposely crafts the questions, picks the target audience to get the result that he wants. And a guy on CNBC is going to call him out for this in our next clip. But right here, he talks about, they weren't really eating the dogs and the cats. Time out. Because he goes on to say, that Donald Trump, people just accept that Donald Trump lies, was in essence what he was saying. That we, the Trump supporters, we know he lies. We know he's over the top. We don't care. Wow. A guy who works in media still doesn't get how Donald Trump is a master of media. Team Kamala and the Democrats could really learn a lesson or two. Then maybe Kamala wouldn't be, have blown $1 billion that she raised in 4 months, blew it all, and is $20 million in debt. She gave $1 million to Oprah Winfrey to come out and endorse her and gave millions away to other celebrity endorsements. Call me naive. I always thought celebrities did all that on their own. Didn't realize they got paid for it. What does a billionaire like Oprah Winfrey need with $1 million to come out if she really believes in Kamala? What does she need? Because a lot of that money, though it did come from big money donors, a lot of it came from working class. We see a lot of delusional women on TikTok who apparently only vote one agenda with one member of their person in mind, and not their mind, but their vagina, because now they're losing it all over TikTok and have declared war on men and, are having their vaginas welded shut, etc. They gave money into the Kamala campaign. And Kamala took the hard-earned money of her donors and gave $1 million up to Oprah, paid to have a podcast studio built for that Call Me Daddy, which is a porn podcast that Kamala would go on. She wouldn't go on Joe Rogan, but she went on that one. It got less than 1 million views, and she paid for the set, the studio that would be used one time. They made that offer to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan does things in his studio, period. You gotta go to wherever he is in Texas. I think it's Austin, and you do it in his studio. Trump went. Everybody else goes there. Kamala, too busy. Can't do that. You'll come to Washington, I'll build you a set. And now there are vendors that are going to get stiffed. Donald Trump, over 11 months, raised just shy of $500,000 and ends his campaign with about 36 million in the bank. So they don't understand how the media works. Donald Trump does. He says something like, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. It becomes this hip hop thing and meme, and it explodes. Donald Trump gets media exposure for free. And it did bring to light that there is a problem in that community in Ohio, that a community that literally has doubled in size in 1 year, a community of 30,000+ that then received 30,000+ migrant Haitians there, and the burden it is putting on the community, resources, welfare, healthcare, schools, classrooms, housing, etc., etc., etc. And these Haitians have been filmed walking through the parks, taking the geese, taking the ducks, killing them in front of people, because apparently that's part of the culture. I found food. And yes, there is footage that a couple of stray cats and a couple of stray dogs were acquired. People showed up at city council meetings there in Ohio screaming and protesting about they're eating the cats or eating the dog. All Donald Trump was repeat that. And it became a thing. But Frank Luntz wants to insinuate he's a liar. See, this is how Luntz and the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media don't get what happened. The American people saw that and understood immediately what Donald Trump was doing. You can call it hyperbole, but he shone a light on a subject that nobody was talking about. Everybody talked about it for about 2 weeks, and Frank Luntz automatically thought that meant Donald Trump lost the election. Wow, he just doesn't get it. Because, see, he's not an honest pollster that comes into this with no agenda to prove, but an agenda to reveal of where is the American electorate at. What do they think is important? Frank Luntz really thought, despite the economy and what other pollsters like Rasmussen, the single most accurate poll, what other pollsters like Rasmussen have been saying for months, that Kamala was never actually in any lead ever at any time, that Donald Trump has been in the lead the whole time, but you had guys like Frank Luntz constantly portraying this is gonna go on for days, and we might not know till Saturday who the winner is. And he went on the Squawk Box on CNBC, and he got called on the carpet for it.
Joining us right now is pollster and political strategist Frank Luntz. We've been talking to Frank now for many a months in the days and weeks leading up to what's been an historic moment, Frank. And before we even just get into it, I wanted to get your biggest takeaway and maybe perhaps surprise, given I'm not sure that, as we've been talking, that this was not the outcome, I think, on the Electoral College map, but maybe even on the popular vote that you were expecting.
And when we'd know, which was not supposed to be till Saturday.
So how come you didn't compliment me 4 years ago when I did it?
Or
exactly
8 years ago when it said Hillary Clinton will be the next president? I don't know, Frank. I think a lot of what you've been saying the last couple of weeks I've disagreed with. I just have. And I disagree with you saying that if Kamala had changed a few things that she would have won. I disagree with that. The country was not ready. And I don't think she was ever in the lead. But Andrew, it's your interview. Go ahead.
I love it. I never watch CNBC, and I don't even know who these guys are, but I love it. Frank, you're wrong all the time. I love it. Yeah, he did call the election for Hillary Rodham Clinton. Remember that? Now, again, he was saying that Trump was gonna lose in 2020. I got an interesting little question. I see it popping up online. We have to be really careful because, it was the most free and fair election ever in the histories of elections in 2020. But there's an old song from the 60s. Where have all the flowers gone? Some of us like to know, where have all the voters gone? All those 81 million people voted for Joe Biden didn't seem to turn out for Kamala, thinks she's a hottie Harris. Yet we are told by poll workers, and we are told by the people who run the polling sites, that this year was the biggest in-person turnout ever. Yet Donald Trump is right about where he was 4 years ago, a few million more votes. Kamala's way down. Let's have the mail-in stuff. They didn't have the mail-in stuff this year. Just thinking out loud here. Some of us saw 2020 in a different way. Frank Luntz, the only thing he called it ahead of time for Biden, not because he's this really smart guy who knows how to read the room and read the country and read the numbers. He's a manipulator of numbers. He wanted Biden to win. And there were things that came into play, and we won't go all there. But he wanted the same thing for Harris. Thought it was over with the debate. Again, didn't connect in any way how Donald Trump literally connects with people. But again, the numbers were overwhelming. And the one poll that was in everybody's face, smacking you constantly, was that 80% of Americans, it's the economy, stupid. And it was wishful thinking for the libloons to think that the women would come out in mass and vote with their vagina and not the well-being of themselves and their families and their children financially. Their thought is, we can deal with the other at another time, but right now, I got to be able to afford to live. I got to be able to afford to eat. I got to be able to afford to take care of my children. They got all excited. The first exit polls on election night. People are voting in overwhelming numbers for democracy, and they automatically, in their arrogance, assumed that meant for Kamala. I can tell you, I voted for democracy to save it by voting for Donald Trump. And so here's this guy, this overrated oafus who honestly would have been, the guy in school that nobody paid any attention to. And you've got these TV personalities, again, because they're all lost in the same broken industry that nobody has informed them yet that they are a walking corpse, mainstream media. It's done. But the only thing dumber than asking someone who is completely wrong how an election is going to turn out, that after he is wrong and it's revealed how wrong he is, they then ask him, what should the Democrats do going forward? Yes, because it's obvious Frank is a man of insight. Frank knows the people. Frank knows the American people. So let's ask him, hey, now that you're saying the Democrats have got to go back to the table and rethink, what should they be rethinking? And here's what he has to say.
Frank, if you were running, we got to run, but if you were running the DNC right now and you were trying to be introspective to the degree you could be, what would you be telling them they need to rethink?
I'd be giving them three names: Cory Booker, Wes Moore, and Mitch Landrieu. All brilliant political people that have amazingly strong records and know how to communicate the values of the American people. Either of those three people could have beaten Donald Trump. Not saying they would have, but could have. And that's what the Democratic Party needs: people who understand and come from the community and know how to communicate.
I noticed one name's not on that list that I thought might be. Shapiro from Pennsylvania, no?
Okay, Shapiro and maybe Gretchen Whitmer. But I'll tell you one thing. The Democratic nominee for vice president, he's not on that list.
Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
Cory Bathroom Booker? Are you kidding me? Don't you remember it was Cory Booker who is in the same hot water as Brett Kavanaugh? Remember when, what was that woman's name? Blasey Ford, I forget her first name. Brett Kavanaugh, he touched me through my clothes at a party, and it so traumatized me. I don't remember what year. I don't remember what house I was at. I don't remember anybody else that was there. And to this day, I have to have 2 doors to my front house, and I can't fly unless I'm going around the world to look at reef and art. Remember her? Everyone's like, we must believe her. She had an accusation. Not a single corroborating witness, not one. But we were supposed to believe her. Cory Booker had written in a book sometime in the 90s that when he was a teenager in the 80s, he did what Brett Kavanaugh was accused of. And he's sorry. Why isn't he disqualified from Congress? Kavanaugh was declared innocent, and yet the left would still love to get their meat hooks into him. Not to mention, he comes from New Jersey. Frank, again, I know you're kind of aloof to, what's the word I'm groping for here? Numbers and data. Did you see how close Donald Trump got it in New Jersey? How far to the right New Jersey moved? And you think the guy to stem that tide is the senator from New Jersey who's got issues and baggage? Okay, see again, this just shows you the wisdom of Frank. Gretchen Whitmer. I can't think of another governor in this country that is hated literally as much as Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer, who during the pandemic, I was living in Ohio at the time, we were right on the Ohio-Michigan border. People were escaping from Michigan into Ohio just to be able to get out of their cars and walk around a little bit. Because in Michigan, during their shutdown to slow the spread, if you were sitting on your front porch by yourself and a police car rolled by, you would be told to get back in your house. People who were trying to, keep from going literally stir crazy and mentally insane in Michigan were planting flower gardens and vegetable gardens only to have city workers show up, rip them all up, and fine them for having been out of their house in their own yard. Trust me, there's a boatload of stuff about how hated Gretchen Whitmer is. But if you think she could be a viable candidate, bring her on, baby. Bring her on. I mean, this just shows you how out of touch, how a Frank Luntz doesn't get it, and he doesn't care, he doesn't need to. Somehow this is the class nerd that has maybe pulled one of the greatest revenge schemes of all time. We all went to school at a time when, there were kids who were, quote, the cool kids, and there were kids that got picked on. Frank was the kid that got picked on, but he's figured out a way to get the cool kids at the table to pay him money. See, because in the real world, in social circles, etc., these sycophant, egotistical news and political commentator people wouldn't give a yutz like Frank Luntz a second look. But because he's got people and dials and he's a pollster who wants to make you feel good about your lib-loon ideas, he's allowed to sit at the cool kids' table at lunch. When in reality, he's wrong about everything. And at what point, even in a liberal news channel, do you start saying, hey, maybe we ought to learn a lesson from Kamala? We can't keep spending money on things that don't produce a result. Kamala's actually out there trying to raise money to pay off her $20 million in debt. And she was going to do what to fix the economy exactly?